Simon, thanks so much for giving us your time. Is France a good case study of the dangers about opening up after a lockdown?
Well, I think it's as good as anywhere. It's a modern, advanced economy that had a significant outbreak of COVID-19 earlier this year. They brought it under control. They, of course, like everywhere else, want to lift those restrictions so that people can return to normal life and the economy can get up and running again. But we see, and perhaps it's being echoed in this country now, an increase in the number of new infections that we see.
Every government, you'd hope, you'd presume, is consulting scientists before implementing any decision around the coronavirus. Do you think a scientist would invariably tell a government that, look, you have to accept a certain number of deaths if you're going to reopen the economy because the virus hasn't really changed from what it was a few months ago? It's still as aggressive.
I think any scientist would look at the possibilities and would acknowledge the fact that if you're going to open up society, then there is going to be a certain amount of infection that sort of churns through the society, and consequently a number of deaths from that. So the scientists won't necessarily instruct, or I think it's highly unlikely that they will instruct politicians what to do, or even try to do that, but they are likely to lay out options for them.
Simon, have you seen the case in Auckland where 4 members of the same family have tested positive? So Auckland's gone into lockdown, but what I was more interested in was that these 4 people are not believed to have travelled anywhere. There was no community transmission right across the whole nation of New Zealand for 102 days, and then they became infected. How might that actually happen?
Well, it happened because the virus was coursing through the society in New Zealand, probably in Auckland, without anybody knowing it, probably at a very low level, but there nonetheless. I mean, we hear a lot about zero COVID strategies. For that to work, it literally means zero COVID. Because if you're going to have any of the virus sort of mixing amongst people, then there is always the chance, when you allow people to mix and to meet one another, for the virus to get going, to jump from person to person, and the case numbers to increase.
So is this now the way of the future over the next few months, that there will be periodic lockdowns right across the world as these breakouts happen, wherever that might be?
And my suspicion is that's the bare minimum we're going to get away with. Localized lockdowns, playing catch up, chasing the virus, whack-a-mole, as Boris Johnson has called it, in order to try and deal with it. Hopefully that will work, but it requires a real sort of keen surveillance of what's going on, and it requires it to work. It requires the general public to comply with the control mechanisms and control procedures that authorities put in place.
Simon, thank you so much indeed. Simon Clarke from the University of Reading.